Hey guys, this is Dave here with Full Armor Gaming, coming with you guys with another video in our DM series on how to DM and what's our steps that we can take to make us a stronger or better DM. Today, we are covering kind of a interesting subject that I think needs to get addressed rather early on in the process of learning to DM, and that is listening to your players. Listening to your players is a very touchy subject, but I think it is something that we do need to talk about early on, because you want your players' input in every step of what's coming up. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be directly involved in the creation of all of these other steps that we've got coming on, but being able to listen to your players is very important in ensuring that the campaign that you're building or the encounter that you're building or whatever it is that you're working towards feels like it's a cohesive group. The first step in listening to your players is have each player either at the table or with you individually or privately through a message or something like that tell you what is their character's goals, their dreams, their fears, and their failings. Those are super important to have, because as the campaign goes on, you want to have that in your mind about individual characters. Like, hey, I know that this character, like, they want to work towards this. And so you want to have that in your mind so that as the campaign goes on and your players are actively asking for new things, we can look at, does this align with where ultimately they want their character to go or not? If it does, let's look at finding some way of helping them. If it doesn't, and it's just like it's a power creep question, like I just want to be stronger and I want this, okay, then we can look at it from a different perspective. So when it comes to listening to your players, it's about asking questions. Find out what they want in a campaign. Now, if you are listening to everybody at the table and they are all saying the same thing, this is going to be really easy for you. If you are listening to everybody at the table and they all want something different, this might not be a campaign that's going to work well if everyone is super set, like, I want this, I want this, I want this, and none of those interact in any way. Okay, we want to know ahead of time what our players are expecting out of the campaign so that we can do our best to accommodate, but also so that we can do our best to let the player know ahead of time, like, hey, before we commit to a whole campaign, that's not the kind of game I like to play. So I want to listen to the players to find out what they want, to know if that's something I'm comfortable giving them or not. If it's not, well, then we need to have that conversation ahead of time. To put that into perspective, I currently have a campaign where we have a ton, like a group of like 6 players, and they are all great people and they're all close friends, and it works out really, really well from that aspect. However, when I ask them what they're all looking for, everybody except for one all aligned in a certain area. One player wanted just combat. The RP side of things was not great for them. They didn't really enjoy the RP side of things, and that's okay that they enjoy that kind of game. But with the campaign that I had instructed, we were going to have multiple sessions where it's just an RP session. That trying to force combat into a session like that would not feel good. It would feel forced. I don't want my games to feel routine, like, okay, we talk for about 2 hours, then we have a fight that randomly shows up, and then that's the session. I don't want it to feel that way. I want it to feel like they're actually in the world living out a story. And so, we talked with this player, and it's like, would you be okay with that? And at first he was like, yeah, we can do that. But then as over time it became clear, it's like, okay, like he's just really not enjoying these RP sessions. So at that point it became like, hey, like this isn't going to change. Do you still want to commit to this group or not? And ultimately he's like, you know what, like I'll catch you guys in the next one. And that's okay, guys. That's what listening to your players is all about. Finding out, like, D&D is hard enough to schedule as it is with our schedules being as busy as it is. If you're not going to be enjoying the type of game that you're sitting down to, it's already hard enough to schedule. Like, let's catch you in the next one, all right? Or it's like, hey, maybe I let that player know that hey, we're going to have a huge string of combat. Maybe we can bring you back as a player NPC for a little while, and you can enjoy this combat, and then duck back out. The player just leaves. Okay, that's okay as well. So that is the first aspect of listening to the players, is finding out what do they actually want this game to be, and then finding out if it aligns with what you're comfortable doing. If it is, we can move on to the next step. And the next step is what to give players. There are some people out there that say, don't ever tell a player no. And okay, I get where they're coming from, but there are some times you need to tell players no. If they're asking for something that, one, would not align in the world, or two, would not align with really what they say their character wants, sometimes you got to tell them no. And that's okay. It's okay to tell them no. On the flip side of that, it's okay to tell them yes. If they're asking for something that kind of maybe doesn't fit in the rules of the game, but it will enhance what their character's goals, dreams, fears, or failings are in some way, well, by golly, I'm going to try to find a way to make that work for them, because ultimately it's helping them build that character closer to what they want that character to be, which ultimately is what we're doing anyway. And we're just doing it together as a group through a story. So to put that into more concrete perspective would be, let's say your players are asking, let's say at level 3, and they're asking for a +2 magic sword. I would essentially tell them, no, unless you have the money. And chances are, most characters at level 3 aren't going to have the money for it. Or if they're like, hey, I want to save up money and I want to go, okay, that's something we can work towards as a group. But understanding what the limitations for where the character is at, like skill-wise, is also, it's kind of a big deal in understanding what is okay to give your players and what isn't. Because if you load them up with all this awesome gear, if they become gear hungry super early on at a low level, that can actually make your job of planning out encounters and all that kind of stuff much more difficult. Because at this point, challenge rating, which already is not a great metric to follow, but at least gives you something. The challenge ratings are going to be all askew if this 3rd level character is sitting in like crazy full plate with a +2 magic weapon and a +2 shield. It's like, okay, well, you just became drastically stronger than you already would have been at that level. And so it can be very hard for you as a player to plan those campaigns out, which then can result in 2 things. Either your encounters are super weak, which the players don't really enjoy because there was no challenge in it at all. There's no threat to their lives in any way, shape, or form. They are just stomping through everything you throw at them. Or you try to compensate by that by making things harder. And sometimes you can then make it so hard that if the other players aren't geared to the equivalent, they can very easily die in those encounters that you were building up for that one character. So it can really, you really got to be careful on saying yes to certain things for characters. And that's why I would say it is okay to say no in those situations. Or I guess the best way would just be not say no, just be like, that's something that we can work towards as you get higher levels. Okay, you're not telling them no, you're telling them wait. Further down the road, we can get you to that. But if you want it at level 3, then the answer is no. It's important that you understand that the players, they want to grow themselves, which is good. They want to become stronger, which I get. They want to be, they want to be the hero sometimes. Some players. Not other players, they don't care. They just in it for the story. But when you have the players like that, you have to also temper that, because if not everybody at the table is that way, it can then all of a sudden make it to where it's like this player is the hero and we're all their sidekicks because they're just so much stronger, so much bigger, so much better in every aspect than the rest of us all are. And then those players aren't having as much fun. So that's why listening to your players is important. Saying yes to your players is important. Saying no to your players is important as well. So ultimately it comes down to what we were talking about at the beginning, where you need to have an idea of what you're comfortable doing, where is your skill level at as a DM? If your skill level is not super high and you're still new to this, I would probably not let players play homebrew classes, homebrew subclasses, stuff like that. Just because if you're not super comfortable on how to do it yet, sometimes those can have some pretty wonky strategies to them that can make the game a lot more difficult to balance as a new DM. That's my recommendation. If you're new to this, just say whatever's in the actual source books, that's what we're going to run. And it's an easy thing. Most players are totally okay with that. You might get every once in a while one that pushes back a little bit, like, hey, I really want to run this. And it's up to you. If you're comfortable with it, okay. But if it's like, hey, I'm new to this, I'm not really sure, I'm just running a module, I'm just going by what the book says, I don't really know, that is okay for you to say, I'd really rather you not, just because I'm not comfortable on how to DM that yet. And it's just as much as it's your job to listen to your players, it's the player's job to listen to you. If you're the one that's going to be working all of this stuff in, and I'm the one working on building encounters and magic items and monsters and all of this kind of stuff, the players also need to accommodate you as well. So that being said, that's what I've got for this one. As always, like and subscribe so we can keep this stuff going. But ultimately, we're going to work to teach you how to feel comfortable sitting behind a DM screen. And so if that's something you really want, please keep checking in, start sharing these videos. If you're a player or you're another DM that has a player that has expressed interest, share these videos with them, share the channel with them so they can start keeping up, and maybe that's something you guys can work towards together. But for right now, this is Dave at Full Armor Gaming, and I will see you guys in the next one.